Hello, welcome again to another screencast edition of Autodesk Maya. Today we'll be setting up and keyframing our animations. As stated before you do anything, be sure to at least set up the stage, the flooring, and at least two blocks to set up to make a jump sequence. It's most efficient that way. Anyways, moving on. As you can see here, I already have my model set up. Make sure she's set up to near the edge of point A, getting ready for point B. So rule of thumb, always as always, depending on which body parts you're going to be moving, you need to make sure that you keyframe your static frame. So that means everything that is standpoint still position, be sure to frame it by pressing Shift W, Shift E, Shift R. So at least you have that. Same thing goes with any other part of the controls that you have. Shift W, Shift D, Shift R, or pretty much Shift D. So depending on the body parts of that, same thing goes with the foot too. So right here, Shift W, Shift D, Shift R. So take consideration of the principles of animation, easing in, the easing out, the exaggeration, and of course the stretch and squash. So I want to give this a little bit of exaggeration right here. I'll start off on frame. There you go, back control. And keyframe that. Same thing with the neck here. Find the control. Do the same thing here. Start off at 0. There we go, and that frame 10. Adjust as such. Keyframe that. Go back here. On this point. So you want to create that exaggeration. There we go. So I might have to readjust my feet right here. Make sure it's spread out, just not too far, but just enough to at least give a little bit of space and leeway. There we go. Same thing goes with the foot roll controllers here. Make sure you establish that shot where it's going to jump. There you go. So when we play it, take that consideration here. So let's see, on frame 15, per se, on this, we're going to move this frame here, keyframe that, go back to my back controls here, set this up back to 0, maybe just keyframe that. Same thing goes with the foot roll here. Gonna keyframe that, frame 15. There you go. And let's see, we'll put it to 0.5. There we go. Keyframe that. Same thing for the other side to make sure you're able to give that exaggeration of that foot roll. 0.5. Go. Go back here to make some adjustments. Again, this is the jumping point. There we go. It's attribute editor. So at least we see what we're doing. So when you play it, of course, she's about to make that jump. So around 20. There we go. So we make the first part. So we did the primary animation here as we create. Now, as for secondary action, take consideration of what other body parts move here that goes around. So this. You could use maybe even the pelvic girdle too as a guideline to push forward. So let's see here. Okay, let's keyframe this. Frame 10. On frame 15. Of course, keyframe that. Now, as I stated before, secondary action is a very important key for this of your character to look more lively. So she hits here, so that means we got to use our shoulders. If you ever bend down to begin to jump, of course you're going to push up your clavicle and also a little bit of your shoulders. It's going to be pushing on the back side. You got to also think about the arcing just so you can build that energy. So take that in consideration within that. Push this back, pull up as such. Like this. So this means right here, also keep in mind to keyframe all this. Let's see, let's hide and lock this here so we won't see anything else. Yeah. So we keep that in mind. There we go. We'll adjust as our resting position. So we set this up right here, pushing forward like that. Press E. E. Shift D. So that's the first part. Now you're going to do the same thing for the shoulder here. I'll focus mostly on the elbow right now. So let's see. Shift D. 10. Press this. And on frame 15, just like that. Same thing goes for the wrist. It's just not only the elbow and the shoulder, it's also the wrist and the fingers too. You're about to exert energy from on about there. So let's see. On frame 10 again. There you go. Keyframe that. So when you play it, there. So go right here, even to the controls here. So actually lock and hide this. There we go. So the only thing I should see is that. So this is my static state. So right here, I'm going to move this inwards as she's beginning to ready to exert that energy. So press W, that, Shift W. Let's see here. Shift W. If you look at this, he's about to exert that energy. Now I'm going to do the same thing for that shoulder here. Let's see here. So I'll press Shift B. And hit 15. Right here. So there. So if I need to make any adjustments, I can easily set that up. There we go. I'm going to repeat the same thing over here on the other side here. Again, static state, go, frame 10, bend the arm or the elbows, and frame 15, go. Repeat the same secondary action outward there. If you need to make an adjustment, feel free to do so, like that. So you're going to do the same thing here. 50, 10, frame 15, hit. There. So that's this part, and I also pay attention to the clavicle here. So pretty much each and every part of the body of the controls here do matter. So you have to push inwards and down just to make sure if it's even, to make sure they're able to exert that same realistic energy when they're doing that. So I'm going to push outward and out like that. Clavicles like that. So take consideration of arcing too. So I'll start off like this. Go back here if I need to fix that. Here, wrist. Frame 10. That. Frame 15 is the jump. So we play back. So when you slow down like this, goes frame by frame. So if you want to adjust any technical issues here, like secondary movement, like the elbow, feel free to fix. So once we have that, already established that shot, what we're going to do is select these in the root control right here. And it's going to be our guideline to there. That's a good start right there. So what we're going to do is Shift D, Shift R, Shift W. That is our setup. I am going to adjust a few things here. So Shift D, Shift R, Shift W. Oops. So as you notice this mistake here that I made, there we go. So always double check to see if your keyframe's right here. So 10, Shift D, Shift R, Shift W, and anything here to establish that shot. So once you have that, there we go. You got that shot. And if you want to go back to these, you can. Move them like that. There we go. And what you're going to do, so when you play back, so when you see the first jump, where she's beginning the anticipation, it starts to look a little bit real. So pretty much that. Take consideration maybe doing a little bit of exaggeration here on the back as such. Maybe fix the neck. There you go. Same thing here with the foot roll. Bring this back down to just a little bit here. The 20 right there. Down. That. There, we set that part right here. Oops. Move this out a little. If you want to make adjustments right here on placement and height of the jump, always take consideration of that. There you go. So if you want to make more adjustments here, you can. Oops. There. So once that's keyed, let me zoom in here. I know it's not much, but it's a start. But that's just the primary setup. But pretty much it's fairly easy. You repeat the same process of keyframing. So here's a few tips again to keep in mind. Always keyframe each frame for each body control that you are going to animate. So that means you have to start from 0 and keyframe its static state before you could actually move the object. If not, it's going to go back to its default position. So always keyframe that default position before you could actually move it and keyframe that actual movement. So always keep that in mind. Take consideration of gravity and secondary action. So once you have that, that pretty much covers it for all the animation. You just keep processing all that. But that pretty much covers it for today's screencast tutorial of Autodesk Maya. Thank you.